1,000 yards. That's all that separated peace from a potential international crisis. A Venezuelan warship, an American Coast Guard cutter, and between them, over a ton of cocaine racing across open water at 45 knots. What began as a routine drug interdiction in the Caribbean transformed into one of the most dangerous standoffs in modern maritime history. For 60 breathless minutes, two armed vessels circled each other in international waters, neither backing down, both fully aware that a single miscalculation could ignite a conflict neither nation wanted, but both were prepared to fight. This is the untold story of how discipline prevented disaster, and how silence became the most powerful weapon at sea. 1537 hours, Eastern Caribbean Sea. The radar screen aboard USCGC Hamilton, WMSL 753, painted a picture that instantly triggered alarms throughout the ship. A fast-moving contact, cutting through open water at over 20 knots. No AIS signal broadcasting its identity. No response to radio hails. Running completely dark. A ghost ship with only one purpose: to disappear before anyone could stop it. The Hamilton, an advanced Legend-class national security cutter, was conducting freedom of navigation operations in international waters. Her mission was clear: intercept suspected drug trafficking vessels and enforce U.S. maritime law in areas where cartels operated with impunity. But this routine patrol was about to become anything but routine. Seconds after detecting the first contact, a second signature emerged on the radar screen. Larger, sharper, moving with military precision. The Combat Information Center quickly identified it: a Venezuelan Navy Guaycamacuto-class patrol ship, accelerating directly toward Hamilton's intercept line at 22 knots. Two tracks were now converging like crossing bullets. Inside Hamilton's CIC, red alarms pulsed across consoles. This wasn't a drug chase anymore. A foreign warship was deliberately maneuvering to block an American law enforcement operation in international waters. At the command center in Key West, officers watched live feeds as the distance between the two armed vessels dropped below 1 nautical mile. Thermal imagery, vector overlays, encrypted voice channels. Every system focused on the unfolding crisis. On the bridge, the atmosphere became electric with tension. The commanding officer's voice cut through the silence with calm precision. Hold course. Record everything. The Caribbean Sea, peaceful and blue moments ago, had transformed into a chessboard where nations played for stakes far higher than drug interdiction. Within minutes, the United States Coast Guard was about to face down the Venezuelan Navy on the open sea, and the whole world would be watching. 1541 hours. The Venezuelan patrol ship's radar signature sharpened with every passing second. Its steel-gray hull sliced through the Caribbean at 22 knots, course deliberately plotted to intersect Hamilton's intercept line at 22 knots. Officers leaned over radar screens, watching vectors converge within a single mile. The Venezuelan vessel carried the unmistakable profile of military power: forward gun mount, radar dome, and the aggressive posture of a warship prepared for confrontation. Hamilton's crew attempted communication on all standard channels. The response? Absolute silence. The Venezuelan ship's IFF transponders were completely dark. No identification signals, no acknowledgement of international maritime protocols. The silence itself became a message: deliberate, calculated, and deeply threatening. In the CIC, technicians adjusted frequency bands, monitoring every electromagnetic emission from the approaching warship. What had begun as a straightforward law enforcement intercept against a suspected drug runner had escalated into something far more dangerous. Two distinct missions, policing and military deterrence, were colliding on the same grid of ocean. 1544 hours. Far to the south, the suspected go-fast skiff continued its desperate run. The fiberglass hull skipped across waves at 45 knots, twin engines screaming at maximum power. Thermal imagery revealed 3 heat signatures aboard, crouched low, frantically tossing objects overboard. Each splash left a pale plume on radar, packages meant to vanish into the depths before capture could occur. Hamilton's command deck shifted into combat readiness. The fleet crew prepared the MH-65 Dolphin helicopter for launch. The rigid-hull inflatable boat was armed and positioned for immediate deployment. Everything unfolded with measured precision, born from thousands of hours of training. Harnesses clipped, cameras activated, weapons secured under spray covers. No panic, only professional execution of rehearsed procedures. 1546 hours. The Dolphin helicopter lifted off Hamilton's deck, rotor wash scattering mist across the stern. From altitude, its advanced sensors painted the tactical situation in stark clarity. 1 smuggler fleeing, 1 Navy warship maneuvering to block, 1 Coast Guard cutter trying to maintain authority in the middle of an increasingly volatile situation. Hamilton adjusted speed to match the closing pattern. The Venezuelan warship held its aggressive course, crossing the American bow with less than 800 yards. Both hulls plowed through intersecting wakes, steel giants on a collision trajectory. 1 wrong calculation, 1 moment of hesitation or aggression could shear metal and ignite an international incident. Inside Hamilton's bridge, the helmsman's hands tightened on controls. Radar operators marked every second with clinical precision. The crew understood the protocols drilled into them. No aggression unless directly attacked, maintain lawful posture, preserve every frame of evidence for review in Washington. Every second was history being written in real time. 1549 hours. The Dolphin's optical turret tracked the Venezuelan vessel as it shadowed Hamilton's flank. The warship's running lights flickered once, perhaps a signal, perhaps coincidence, but nothing in this situation felt accidental. On Hamilton's beck, sailors scanned with binoculars, reading body language across the narrowing distance. Venezuelan crew visible on rails, helmets donned, but no weapons openly displayed. It was a standoff constructed from patience rather than firepower.
For a brief moment, the horizon split between crimson sunset clouds and the metallic glint of 2 flags, stars and stripes on one side, yellow, blue, red on the other. The only sound was the twin rhythm of powerful engines pushing against an increasingly tense sea. 1553 hours. The smuggler's skiff made an unexpected maneuver, veering sharply north back toward the intercept zone. Whether driven by panic or calculation, the turn dragged all 3 vessels into a collision triangle that could no longer be avoided. Hamilton accelerated. The RHIB dropped into the water with a heavy thud, twin engines screaming to life as 6 boarding officers sped toward the fleeing skiff. Overhead, the Dolphin lowered altitude, rotor wash flattening waves into a churning cauldron. The pilot released a single red flare, a universal warning shot without violence. The flare burned bright above the surf, casting crimson light across the Venezuelan warship's bridge windows. For 10 seconds that felt like an eternity, no one moved. The entire Caribbean seemed to hold its breath. Then the chase resumed with renewed intensity. The RHIB carved through spray, closing distance meter by meter. The skiff's crew, blinded by tactical floodlights, hesitated fatally. The inflatable slammed alongside, boarding hooks caught fiberglass, and the American team vaulted over the gunwale with practiced efficiency. Within moments, the smuggler's engines went silent. 1557 hours. From Hamilton's bridge, the scene unfolded through binoculars and thermal imaging. Movement, brief struggle, then stillness. The traffickers were subdued, hands secured. The contraband was confirmed. Over 1.1 metric tons of cocaine and chemical precursors, scattered among shattered bales drifting in the current. At that exact moment, the Venezuelan patrol ship stopped dead in the water, engines at idle, floodlights sweeping across the waves in brilliant white arcs. The barge crew stood motionless behind armored glass, neither hostile nor welcoming, only watching with the cold calculation of sovereign military power. Hamilton held position, bow angled west, maintaining 1,000 yards of tense silence. Only the hum of generators and the rhythmic pulse of the sea filled the void between the two warships. Every bearing, heading, and hull number was meticulously recorded. The encounter had transformed from action into endurance, a test of nerve rather than firepower. 1,600 hours. In Key West, analysts studied live feeds in near silence. Two armed ships locked in international waters, neither able to retreat without surrendering the narrative advantage. Aboard Hamilton, iron discipline held firm. The RHIB team secured evidence with forensic precision. Technicians logged samples and GPS timestamps. Crew rotated stations with quiet efficiency, every movement deliberate and controlled. 1604 hours. The Venezuelan vessel edged closer, its wake brushing the current like a whispered warning. Navigation lights dimmed to minimum visibility, a deliberate reminder that the contested space remained exactly that, contested. Inside Hamilton, gestures replaced words, calm, deliberate, unshaken. Restraint, not reaction, defined every decision in those critical minutes. 1608 hours. As twilight deepened into darkness, both vessels lingered in quiet defiance. The helicopter circled above, recording every frame for historical record and political analysis. Then, with an almost ceremonial quality, the Venezuelan ship executed a precise turn to the west, her wake spreading and fading into darkness like ink dissolving in water. Hamilton waited, radar tracking the contact until it completely disappeared from screens before easing forward again. The crew finally released breaths they hadn't realized they were holding. They had done far more than intercept smugglers. They had faced a foreign navy's direct challenge without firing a single shot and won through discipline alone. The log entry was professionally brief. Hostile interference, no engagement. In the stillness that followed, engines hummed and deck lights dimmed as the cutter resumed patrol. The danger hadn't truly ended, it had simply gone quiet, retreating into diplomatic channels and intelligence briefings. In Washington, the footage would soon arrive on secure servers. What the nation's leaders decided next would determine whether this incident remained an isolated maritime skirmish or became the spark for something far more serious. 1627 hours Eastern Time. The situation cascaded through encrypted Washington channels with remarkable speed. Live video feeds, comprehensive radar logs, and detailed telemetry from Hamilton arrived at the National Security Council. Every agency with Caribbean stakes watched in tense silence. Homeland Security, Pentagon, Southern Command, State Department. On wall-sized displays, 2 dots glowed over digital maps, one red, one blue. Circling, holding distance, neither willing to yield position. What began as drug interdiction was now classified as hostile maritime interference. The clinical term carried enormous weight in military law, signifying that a foreign navy had directly challenged a lawful U.S. operation in international waters. Analysts briefed senior officials on disturbing patterns. Venezuela had been shadowing American operations since early September, following the destruction of 2 smuggling vessels by coordinated Coast Guard Navy actions. Caracas had publicly denounced the United States as maritime pirates, and new satellite imagery revealed Venezuela deploying additional patrol craft near Grenada and Dominica. The Hamilton incident wasn't random, it was deliberate escalation, part of a calculated pattern of gray zone conflict. The discussion shifted from tactical response to strategic optics. Every camera aboard Hamilton had captured the Venezuelan ship's provocative maneuvers. Every second of American restraint now served diplomatic purpose, proving U.S. discipline under intense pressure. No one suggested immediate escalation, but neither did anyone propose retreat. To withdraw would invite repetition. To respond militarily could ignite regional conflict. The compromise decision, Hamilton would maintain patrol, document every provocation, and operate under full self-defense authority. The Coast Guard received instructions to preserve every byte of data for congressional and diplomatic review. 17:02 hours local time. The sun descended toward the horizon, turning the Caribbean into liquid gold, but nothing about the scene suggested peace. Hamilton maintained steady speed, her bow rhythmically lifting and settling as she tracked the smuggler's last position. The Venezuelan warship's silhouette remained visible on the horizon, dull gray and unblinking, shadowing at precisely calculated distance, close enough to assert presence, too far to justify American countermeasures without severe consequences. The standoff continued through dusk, two armed vessels circling each other in an intricate dance of sovereignty and restraint. Neither would fire, neither would flee. The modern battlefield demanded something far more sophisticated than traditional warfare. It required absolute discipline under microscopic scrutiny. By 1746 hours, the Venezuelan warship finally turned west, turbines humming briefly before sound was swallowed by wind and darkness. No signal followed, only measured withdrawal that felt less like retreat than ritual acknowledgement. Hamilton maintained position for several minutes, the helicopter making one final verification sweep to confirm separation. When the contact finally faded from radar, the atmosphere aboard seemed to exhale collectively. On deck, tactical vests were unbuckled, helmets carefully set aside. The night's log recorded the outcome with professional brevity. Hostile interference, no shots fired. Conversation came slowly, the quiet heavier than relief. The crew understood they had operated within inches of escalation, yet managed to hold a fragile balance few would ever witness or comprehend. At sea, the entire standoff had lasted less than 1 hour, but in the language of navies, it would echo for years. By 1810 hours, Hamilton was back on course, engines humming as the sea darkened. Seized cargo is sealed and tagged, suspects confined under guard, and an encrypted message confirmed mission success to Key West before radios fell silent again. Behind her, the Venezuelan cutter slipped into the horizon, light swallowed by dusk. The adrenaline faded slowly, replaced by the mechanical rhythm of patrol, the steady vibration of steel against waves, the familiar hum that told the crew they had crossed another invisible line without firing a shot. They had upheld U.S. law, asserted maritime rights, and demonstrated restraint where others might have reached for force. It was, in every measure, a victory built not on confrontation, but on control. By sunrise, USCGC Hamilton had resumed its patrol track along the eastern Caribbean, engines humming steadily under gray-blue light. The sea gave no hint of the previous night's drama, but across Washington, the incident reverberated through every channel of power. Reports arrived in sequence: 1.1 tons of narcotics seized, evidence verified, suspects in custody, 0 shots fired. A mission that began as law enforcement had ended as a masterclass in strategic restraint. Within hours, Venezuela issued official protest. State media labeled the interception maritime piracy, accusing the U.S. of violating sovereign patrol zones. Yet the footage told another story: a U.S. cutter maintaining international law, a foreign warship crossing its path, and a professional crew that refused provocation. Pentagon analysts called it textbook gray zone warfare. Operation